Aristotle argues that with every sphere in which we have feelings and emotions, there can be excesses of emotion, deficiencies of emotion, and then appropriate levels of emotion. He refers to the appropriate level of the emotion by the term mean. Let's see why he refers to it as the mean. Take it as an example, anger. I'm going out to eat, and I discover that the waitress has left off the plate my side order of salad. Now there is what could be called an appropriate level of anger here. But what if I stand up, stamp my foot, and call out in a loud voice that the moron waitress completely bungled my order? This would be excessive anger, given the situation. Of course, if I merely shake my head and choose not to say anything to remedy what had happened, one might say that I am not angry enough. Thus, there is a right level of anger in this situation, which might be thought to be at a point between the excess anger manifest in my stamping and yelling, and the deficient anger manifest in my refusing to voice my complaint. This is the mean between the 2 points, and the virtue of good temper would reside somewhere around that point. Aristotle is careful to point out that where the mean lies will differ, depending on what the situation is and who is choosing what level of feeling to have. That is, the mean is relative to the situation and the person. He uses as an example the wrestler Milo, who is rather large and athletic. Now Milo could eat too much food, eat too little food, or eat the right amount of food, and obviously the right amount of food would be the appropriate thing for him to aim for. But each of these are going to be different amounts of food for someone who is not large or as active as Milo. Take someone who isn't very athletic. What would be an excessive amount of food for them might actually be what's appropriate for Milo. And what is appropriate for the non-athlete would actually be deficient or too little for Milo himself. Similarly, where the mean lies in the virtues will depend on who is acting and the situation being acted upon. Thus, for Aristotle, the key to flourishing is knowing what level of feeling is appropriate for what conditions. He writes the following: but having these feelings at the right times, about the right things, toward the right people, for the right end, and in the right way, is the intermediate and best condition, and this is proper to virtue. He then sums up what a virtue is by defining it here. Virtue, then, is a state that decides, consisting in a mean, the mean relative to us, which is defined by reference to reason, that is to say, to the reason by reference to which the prudent person would define it. It is a mean between 2 vices, one of excess and one of deficiency. But at this point, we might ask, what are the individual virtues? And that will be the subject of the next podcast.